All right, good evening, everyone. My name is E.R. Anderson. I'm the executive director of Charis Circle. Charis Circle is the nonprofit programming arm of Charis Books, and Charis Books is the South's oldest independent feminist bookstore. We are so excited to be here with all of you tonight, in person and online, to celebrate the natural order of things, an evening with Donika Kelly and Jericho Brown. And we are here also to kick it off with Samuel Ace. Samuel is the host of our monthly reading series, which has been so important to us. It's called Meet Me There. And initially, when we had been talking about this new beautiful book from Donika, we had been like, oh, we'll have Donika come for Meet Me There. And then we were like, oh, Donika's going to be coming even sooner. And so we were like, all right, well, we got to get Sam in here to do a proper introduction because Sam is the most beautiful introduction giver I know. Um, so just quickly, I will give the proper professional introduction first of Jericho, but Jericho gets mad when I read his whole bio, so I'm not going to do that. But Jericho is the author of 3 collections of poetry, the Tradition, the New Testament. See, we don't even have the right bio for you. We don't even have the full bio. He got a Pulitzer and a MacArthur. What else you need to know? That's it. He teaches. That's it. Okay. Fuck him. But he is a beautiful interviewer. And so we're in a poetry lover, a lover of other people's poems. And that's part of why we are so excited to have him here to talk to the star of tonight, Donika Kelly. Donika is the author of Bestiary, which was the winner of the Hurston Wright Legacy Award and the Kate Tufts Discovery Award, and The Renunciations, which was the winner of the Ainsfield Wolf Book Award and a finalist for the National Book Critics Circle Award, and the brand new book, The Natural Order of Things, which is already a staff favorite. So thank you for coming all the way to us. Donika, we're so glad you're here. And now I'm going to welcome up Samuel Ace to give a proper intro.
Hello, everyone in this intimate reading, and hello, everyone online. And thank you for joining us in person and streaming live from Charis Books in Decatur, Georgia. And we're welcoming Donika Kelly and Jericho Brown. Also, Meet Me There, which we're sort of merged together tonight. It's a monthly reading series featuring queer and trans authors who are bringing new books in the world. And Donika is bringing this gorgeous new book into the world. Existence of Charis, which is an independent bookstore. For those of you who don't know, it's been here for 51 years, infinitely important in the face of all the increasing surveillance and the policing of speech from the state. Just want to say thank you to E.R. Anderson and Abeo, who are logistically behind all of this and makes not only Meet Me There possible, but every event that happens in the store, which is something happens here every single night. So please support them buying books from either their website, especially tonight's authors, and if you're in the store, there are signed copies up front. This is, I just want to mention, it's a double week. Tomorrow night, we are featuring virtual only. There are 2 incredible trans poets who are going to be reading. It's Roque Salas Rivera and Jadine Pluker. They're also reading from these gorgeous, extraordinary new books. And then next month, next Thursday, November 13th, also virtual, we're going to be celebrating new books of poetry by Cam Awkward Rich and Richard Sykin. Maybe, E.R., you could put, if you have them, the registrations in the chat so people know about those things. So enough for announcements. I'm just going to do a short introduction to set the stage because I really want to hear Donika read from The Natural Order of Things. It's been a decade of books from Donika Kelly, 3 of them to be precise. And we've been given the gift of her poems throughout that decade. This Natural Order of Things is Kelly's third book, and it follows 2016's Bestiary and 2021's The Renunciations. In each of these books, Kelly writes to transform the intimate details into just incredibly explosively large worlds. Her language, like the earth and the body, morphs gradually but forcefully into what is meant and needs to be said. Often it's like the view begins with a distant vision, but then narrows to a pinhole of absolute and often devastating precision. The poet of the Renunciations, Kelly's previous volume, breaks through the silence of childhood sexual abuse, calls it by name, and lays bare what the body carries forward into the present. This is the opposite of disassociation, but perhaps it's the ironic gift of trauma that it often bursts in the poet a deep kind of attention that comes from having to look away from the immediate to the wood grain on the floor, the marks on the wall next to the bed, or the dirt on a police cruiser's window. The poet of the Natural Order of Things also refuses disassociation. In this book, she speaks directly of connection, of what's left behind, and the nature of memory itself. Kelly says, quote, "We leave what is forgotten behind us easily enough," as she listens to a grandfather whose memories are scattered but somehow make sense, offering a tangible connection to the past. In the poem, "It's Gone, Gone, Be What It Is," Kelly describes the words of an elder recouping language and events. She reveals the fallibility of memory, but also reveals, like poetry, memory's gorgeous and sometimes seemingly incongruous associations, which then cohere into a rich and perhaps greater knowledge. As in many of the poems, there's a looping, an attempt at retrieval, both with gratitude for the knowledge, but also the grief of loss. Is there ever an antidote to the loss of someone, of the deep and singular connection with another human being, a person's history, every jewel, every beautiful connection? Where, Kelly asks, does that connection go when the person is no longer? Is there ever an answer for that loss, even as it tries to exist in the residue of what's left behind? Kelly says, quote, "He whispers, sinking as he is our gravity, reliquary of wax, yes, and bronze, and who have we walked over to be here?" She does not flinch in acknowledging that we live and love day to day in the midst of war, genocide, and the colonial takeover of everything. In the poem, "I never figured out how to get free," she says, "the war was all over my hands. I held the war and I watched them die in high definition." And in a later poem, "Open your eyes to a present bare as a winter tree, the tree a raw nerve, not dead, but at rest, a mistake to think now is always." It's a mistake, yes, to think that now is always. But in this book, in the midst of all the devastation, Kelly reminds us that even if it does not last, the present moment gives us the opportunity for gratitude, for desire, for our connection to others, and for the deepest kind of love. Even in loss, there's the present. One can't have loss of connection without the connection of love in the first place. She says, quote, "On the train, I say, I know why I'm here, to love you in this, the only second of life we have for certain." Please welcome Donika Kelly.
It's gonna be what it is, man. It's just gonna be what it is.
It's gradually.
Oh, oh. Thank you, Sam. That was gorgeous. All right. Okay. Thank you for the introduction, Sam. It's so nice to be here at Charis in person. When I launched the Renunciations in 2021, which feels like a million years ago now, we did it virtually with Nikki Finney, and it feels so nice to be in the space with Jericho, with ER, with my pals who are here. Okay, so I'm gonna read poems from the book. I'm excited to do that. Jericho gave me some notes on what I should read. So I'm gonna try to I'm gonna try to be good and listen for once. So Jericho rightly called me out and said I just do what I want to do, which is right. And what I would like to do is actually to start with a poem. Uh, start with a poem from that came out of my family's language and playing dominoes. And it's the things we say when we play dominoes. I haven't played dominoes in a long time. That we is feeling very far away, but this is called the Bone Museum. We say, give me a nickel. We say, 10 to get in. Grown folks say, she. One time, Jimmy say, Tennessee tidy, all booty, no body. And now we all say it. We say, trees, please, or fitting. We say, boat the door. We say, boat with a sail on it. Mama say, bear, come on out them woods. We knock. She say, she know, and run the board like she paying for the rent. Say, and I'm out. Slam the bones hard enough to rattle to wake up the dead. I wrote that poem after writing like so many narrative poems. I was like, I just want sound. And I've been in Iowa for like 2 years. I was like, I want good sounds. Like, it is, Iowa has many gifts, but that is not one of them. So, all right. So this next poem I'm going to read is called Tell It Short. I'll tell it short, like Miss Jewel. First, the homeless summer, everything I owned packed into a blue tub in my red car's trunk, and where to go. My great grandma, a new widow, and this summer, the first in 63 years without her Zach. Julie, mud deer, sitting by the window, peeping the shifting light, calling, who knock? When I knocked, then stumbled into the house of cut off, of scrap lumber, hot and damp as a mouth, and thank God for the porch that whistled the breeze where we sat and sweat. And couldn't Miss Jewel talk? And weren't the stories always the same? How I know I came honestly to refrain. Didn't I come bearing what gifts could delight, what token I could afford, sugar-free peppermints and sugar-free ice cream? And quick, she say, put a piece in my hand or put me a little in a bowl. I'm telling you, we hopped over in the bed together in the evenings, the old fan pushing air hot as my own skin and the blood besides, and grandma murmuring, that fan is a little cool, isn't it? Pulling the quilt up to her neck. I'm telling you, I was little and lost the season I learned to be still, to pass a piece of time with remembering, a comfort to remember now, to make present for a little while, to bring her as from a great distance closer. I miss that old lady. All right. So the first part of the book is really dealing with like my family's language, sort of pulling towards me, closer to me, the parts of my family that feel safe, that feel known, that feel good to be in proximity to. And then the poems shift in the second movement into love poems that are for Phoebos, who is probably walking on her treadmill at home. Uh, she likes to do. But I wrote this poem right before she and I met. And it was after seeing, I don't know if y'all remember Fiona, the baby hippo, before Mudang, right? Like the OG baby hippo. And I was like, yes, there's something here. So this is a poem to remind myself of the natural order of things. Observe the baby hippo, early born in hay over concrete, stumbling anew in its enclosure. Taut skin and fat and awkward steps, it stumbles under a fluorescent sun and nearly into the white walls. Hippo baby, little river horse, you should be in a river. Oh, Donika, you should be in love. And then I was. Okay. I want to say just one thing about this next poem. It's called In the Beginning, and it started as a writing exercise with my students at Baruch. And the students were giving us, they were tasked with creating a writing exercise that would get us into writing closed form poems. And this group was very gentle. They were like, write the first quatrain, the first 4 lines of a Shakespearean sonnet. And I was like, bet, I could do that. And then I wrote this poem. And I got home that afternoon, I finished it. I went into the office where Melissa was working. I printed out the poem. She was like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Mind your business." And then I came back. I went out into the apartment. I put the poem in a frame. Well, I signed it, then I put it in a frame, and then I walked back into her office and I said, "Here, I made this for you." She gets a lot of macaroni art, is what I'm saying. In the beginning. In the beginning, there was your mouth, soft rose, rose murmur, murmured breath, a warm cardinal wind that drew my needle north, magnetic flux, the press of form to form. In the beginning, there was your mouth, the trailhead, the pathhead faintly open, the canyon, river carved, farther south and ahead, the field, the direction chosen. In the beginning, there was your mouth, a sky full of stars, raked or raking, clockwise or west, and in the close or mammoth matter, my heart's red muscle knocked and knocked. In the beginning, there was your mouth, and nothing since but what the earth bears out. Confronted with the argument of your body. Soaring, well measured, I consider yielding. I consider presenting my own body, also soaring, also well measured, not encounter, but an echo and mirror, beloved. I consider a future in the same space, the rough geometry, as you say, of my body in the periphery of your gaze, the body as formula, as proof, as theorem, some small resolution to a family of questions of distance. First, the animal I am, the approximation of God and machine that aches and aches when we are apart, then the practice of managing my limbs, tumbling in space, breathing, breathing, my skin that burns until it's covered or itches and must be born because it cannot be exchanged. Then your body in narrow resolution and high definition, the moment we return to one another, the only boundary skin, revelation, and ecosystem, what I've found there in the loam, the damp. Of course, I'm talking here about fucking, shattered as I've been on the crest of wanting to be inside you. I'm talking, of course, metaphysically, how every part of you feels against my tongue, how you close around me. Another way of saying that when I am inside you, I am no longer tumbling, but an animal, bass and humming, free from the conceit of reason. I like being free from the conceit of reason. Another poem to remind myself of the natural order of things. You are of a mind, a reiteration along a different branch, our nearest shared relative, a flatworm. You are in a jar, your tentacles both of themselves and you spinning the lid from inside. Oh, little octopus, I am full of questions. How did this happen, this laboratory, this maze, the lights you short with a jet of water? Your camera's eye, your hard beak, what you pulled along the ocean floor to your burrow. Where is the ocean? Who put you in a jar? What have they taught you to settle for? What do they know of your several minds? What I might sing. Last Friday, I was thinking of Whitney Houston. And because of you, I was thinking too of America, what I might sing of it. In elementary school, I pledged allegiance, the opening words still the fastest way for me to find my right hand, for my right hand to find my heart. I struggled to say indivisible, not individual or invisible, but the opposite of both. Over 30 years ago in my hometown, when I was a child in elementary school, faithful in my recitation to the flag, the LAPD pounded into a man's body on the side of the freeway, caught on tape, the camera candid, the verdict not guilty, my neighborhood ablaze, the smoke visible from the kitchen window and on TV. They peeled open too the loose fist of my family, my father and uncle, and my aunt's boyfriend Virgil, almost an uncle, and who else besides? The fist black, the state blue, the flag limp in the classroom's corner, monotonous metonymy. For as long as I lived in Arkansas, my great aunt, now 88, who was born and will die just off Highway 79, my great aunt, who has a mind you, worked the polls. Before I talked with her last Sunday, I'd imagined some politic romance, a fantasy of a Black woman, a mother at Pleasant Home CME who remembers Jim Crow, the peanut gallery, the back doors, the lost jobs, big money gone, but she's still here. I imagined her practicing her franchise, volunteering her time, to my mind, righteous. Well, come to find out that she didn't vote until she was in her 30s for Kennedy. Come to find out that after she was fired from Snow White Cleaners after 30 years of service and no pension, well, $125 a day to work the polls, primary or general, was decent enough. The white woman who my aunt called an overseer, kind enough. The money still necessary after my Uncle June died last year, but the position gone, the money gone, the overseer gone, and the two of us a chorus of, well. I was thinking of Whitney on the train this last Friday, having scrolled past that video of the LAPD refusing to revisit the first time I saw the machine of the state doing its oldest work. I was remembering Whitney singing the Star Spangled Banner, her white tracksuit, the sweat under the lights, above her lip, her vibrato jaw. But why was she singing? I was remembering America, thinking of you on my rumble home, the anthem I used to sing along to, my hand finding my heart because I was young and yielded to most things. And still, listen, Whitney sang the shit out of that song. Marvin, too, the year I was born, his shades a mirror, this poem a mirror I keep turning away from. All parts, no whole, and damn near nothing worth standing for. I never figured out how to get free. The war was all over my hands. I held the war and I watched them die in high definition. I could watch anyone die, but I looked away. Still, I wore the war on my back. I put it on every morning. I walked the dogs, and they too wore the war. The sky overhead was clear, or it was cloudy, or it rained, or it snowed, and I was rarely afraid of what would fall from it. I worried about what to do with my car, or how much I could send my great aunt this month and the next. I ate my hamburger, I ate my pizza, I ate a salad or lentil soup, and this too was the war. At times, I was able to forget that I was on the wrong side of the war, my money and my typing and sleeping sound at night. I never learned how to get free. I never learned how not to have anyone's blood on my own soft hands. What you dare to open at the threshold. Open your eyes to a present bare as a winter tree. The tree, a raw nerve, not dead, but at rest. A mistake to think now is always. Soon enough, the bud and bloom, the green leaf and husked fruit. Soon enough, the small jaw makes of the hard shell dust, makes of the sweet meat a feast. What wild, soft hope to suppose that what was will be. For now, take the attitude of work, then the attitude of rest, then work, a curious industry, then rest. For now, grab the hand that pulls you up, the hand that gets you dressed, the hand that soothes you when you wake in the dark, startled, and damp. Is the hand your own? So be it. Is the hand another's? So be it. There is a future in your mouth, smoky quartz on your tongue. Where will you hold it? Belly, teeth, or palm? So this sort of last movement in the book, kind of like love poems to friends, some odes to being by myself. So I'm gonna read a few of those. And this last one, this next one that I'm gonna read, I'd spent some time with some students, and that it felt really lovely. I did an independent study, so we were just like reading Black women. It was just like so nice. And then I was in a class with the poet Lauren Hunter through. There used to be this online program. Is it like an online school called like Night School Bar, something like that? And so I was taking this class on like magic and ritual. I don't believe in magic. But there I was because I wanted to take a class. And so she gave us these cards that had like major feminist figures and gave us the option of who to write toward. And so I was thinking of Audre Lorde when I was writing this. Major Arcana. I've done today what I know best. Struck out with a soft heart and the day's wet heat. Unseasonable, this weather, unreasonable, this longing, yet both, one alongside the other, companions for the day's practice. A praise song to youth, and I love you, I miss you, to my heart. Bread broken with two women, not mirrors of me or one another, but resonances. Oh, Audrey, at times I have called on you as others might, a power higher than their own. Oh, Lord, who might have walked alongside me, mouth a firm line when I ask how to bear this loneliness, this ache, who might respond exquisitely, with excellence, with chaos, with whatever yellow light you've got. I love you. I miss you. Please get out of my house. Right? Sam and I were talking about this. It's important to have alone time, especially in those long-term relationships. So, and I really like reading this title, so I'm going to read it again. I love you. I miss you. Please get out of my house. Nothing today hasn't happened before. I woke alone, bundled the old dog into his early winter coat, watered him, fed him, left him to his cage for a day closing just now. My eye drifts to the buff belly of a hawk wheeling as they do in a late fall light that melts against the turning oak and smelts its leaves bronze. Before you left, I bent to my task, fixed in my mind the slopes and plains of your face, fitted in some essential geography, your belly stretched, then soft against my own, your scent familiar as 1,000 evenings. Another time, I might have dismissed this hunger, this cataloging, this fitting, this fixing, but today I crest the hill, secure in the company of my longing. What binds us stretches, a tautness I've missed, as a sapling, supple, misses the wind. So I'm going to read two more. And this is another poem that I wrote for Melissa. She and I had a conversation about, well, it wasn't a conversation. I went up to her and I said, sweetie, what do you think about these love poems that I've written for you, about you? And she said, they aren't about me, they're about you. And I was like, shut up. Because she was right. And that is often true about most love poems, is that it is more about what the speaker, who is like me, is feeling. And so I wanted to try to write a poem that really tried to lean into that the poem really was about how I couldn't know more than I did about her, that we're in proximity to each other. And there's just so much there that is, she's a confusion. She confuses me. And so I wanted to celebrate that. So this is called What is the Measure for Melissa. I catalog what I cannot capture. The sun, its ragged stumble into rock face, the precise elevation of this plateau or the next, the sea, of course, against which everything is measured. My tools are insufficient, inexact. For instance, there is no way to measure the peak against the distance from the tip of one ring finger to the other, no matter my arm's position, outstretched, limp, akimbo. For instance, there is no way to weigh the earth pushed out of earth against the gravity of my body, its bones, its sacks, its meat, and animating light. I submit. I do not constitute the mountain. This, in spite of the palette of old quilts and newly fallen maple leaves I've made at its immeasurable base. I submit. I do not constitute the field, although I have harrowed its length, its width with my long feet, my slow step. Never mind, I hear what scurries or scatters, what burrows or bounds. Never mind, I raise my hand to hover the bent grass, the echinacea's bald crown, all of which withers or writhes, all of which is new or nearly the same before my foot's next fall. I submit. As with the mountain, the field. As with the field, you. Ineluctable as a seasoned sun ragging the rock face. Your arm nearly as long as mine, your palm wider, your mouth a beginning, your eyes, of course, that against which everything else is measured. You harrow, and the summit writhes. Your broadfoot falls, and the field, akimbo, gives up its gravity, lets loose its bodies, its bones, thrums in animating light. And then the last poem I'm going to read is the last poem in the book. It's. I remember writing this and just thinking, like, oh, yeah, this is for me. This is a private poem. And that allowed me maybe to say something that otherwise might be really difficult to say. So I'm a person who's suffered. That's the wrong word. I've lived with my suicidality, which is like very quiet right now, which is great. And I was just trying to relate to it as something that is a part of my life. That is it's something that I can manage. So this is Suicide Watch, Spring. So much has happened that I would never have known I could remember. The trees here budding red before they flower, the hills scraped with rust before white, before petal, before green. The old dog sprayed by a skunk last fall, carrying the burning oil in his ruff, there still if you breathe deeply enough. Last night, the raccoon frozen mid-lane before my headlights, that I whispered, "Get along, little friend," to its flashing eyes, my rummaged heart. Reading, always in the sun. Always my chest a sail, belled with my own words with every breath on stage. Loving you in the dark, some small animal in the grand scheme. Loving you in the morning, the light breaking like a heart over the plains of our bodies, some small planet in the grand scheme. That I'm happy sometimes to be alive. That such happiness could have happened at all. Thank you all so much.
Y'all hear me? Yeah. I'm setting an alarm because I really love this poet and I really love their work. I'm so glad I met you. And I'm so happy that your poems are on Earth. Um, Especially right now, reading this book, I felt like, oh, I needed to read this book because it has a centering effect. I talked to you about that last line of that last poem that you just read to us, and you said, what did you say, Donika?
That such happiness could have happened at all.
Yeah, girl. you know, which is an entire worldview. Do you know what I mean? And one that I think is so valuable, particularly for poets, period, but now. And there's something about that I feel challenged by. I don't know that I've ever would have even fathomed. I mean, this is why you're like such a great, just a great poet, just so good. I don't think I would ever fathom ending a book that way or understanding that possibility of feeling, even in my own life. Do you know what I'm in that way?
I do.
And so I really appreciate that. And I want to thank you for it, really, really. And that poem that I told you need to be reading, that war poem, you made me cry. I cried when I read it in the book, and then I cried again sitting there, which is, all we can hope for. That's all we ever want is make some people cry. So I should ask you questions now.
Yeah.
Are you ready for that? Did you want to say anything before I do that?
I appreciate you reading my work and being here and being willing to talk to me about my book. I know you're busy.
Yeah, I'm happy to.
Yeah.
I'm happy to. So I want to ask you first about pronouns, your use of the word we in particular, which you addressed during your reading. That was my literal question. When you read a poem with bones in the title, and how so many people are going to see those bones and not understand that you're talking
Mhm.
about dominoes,
Mhm.
which also changes
Mhm.
exactly what you might think about the poem. But the poem is ultimately a sort of homage to Black vernacular,
Mhm.
but also to the way that that Black vernacular means that we are our ancestors.
Yep.
You know, by the end of
Yep.
the poem, we are our ancestors, or we can raise them from the dead, right,
Mhm.
by speaking
Mhm.
as was handed down to us.
Mm.
But can you talk about that distance you feel from that we, and
Mhm.
also how that we changes? There's another poem in the book
We
that I
came here.
mentioned.
We
Huh?
came here to get away from you.
No, no,
No.
no.
Mhm.
That poem that's on page 13, Fishing in the Blood.
Oh yeah, yeah.
There's a we in that poem. I mean, in that poem is about family, and yet,
Mhm.
just like the Dominoes poem is about
Mhm.
family, but there's a we in that poem you don't want no part of.
That's
Do you,
right.
do you understand what I'm
I
saying?
do. I do.
And so maybe you could talk a little bit about how you conceive of a we, or an I, or a she, or a you. You're
Mhm.
very in terms of craft. I've noticed there'll be a sudden you or a sudden I in a poem.
Mhm.
But can you talk about just how you make use of pronouns in this
Mhm.
book or in your poems in general, and what that
Mhm.
affords you and how that has meaning for you?
Mhm. Thank you so much for that question and for that reading of the Bow Museum. I was just
So smart.
uh, I think that's exactly right. That we is a way of being close when I know that like I can't be close with my folks. Like I can't actually be with them. We don't play dominoes together anymore because I'm not sitting in the house with them anymore. um, but there is this gift that my family, especially my family from Arkansas, has given me, which is that they're just so good with language. Some people know how to talk, and I have inherited and have made some study of the way that we use figure, and I love it. Like it's just so fun. So it's like it feels like a safe way to be with my family. And I would actually say those we's, the we in the Bone Museum and the we in Fishing in the Blood, those are the same. Right? They're both kind of a we that I don't want to be a part of, but am a part of. And so then how do I navigate that? Like how do I navigate those relationships? Um and in some ways I do feel that invoking the we again just allows me to love my family, uh to be with them when I can't be with them by choice mostly. And then in other places in the book, I mean, I've been working towards an I that is more like me. It feels more vulnerable. That I that's not an I that isn't in persona, an I that isn't like a mythical creature or an oracle or something that's like that sort of moves into the space of persona, but that is like a black lady, a middle-aged black woman.
A lesbian who's a poet.
Yeah, that's right, right. Yeah, yeah, very much a lesbian who is a poet. And that to me feels important. I had this thought about the book where it's like there are these suite of love poems that come around confronted with the argument of your body, and the poems are, and I have read these poems before, and it's fun to do. But after scissoring for the first time at 33, self portrait as a woman who kneels over her beloved's face, it's like that. There's something in that where it's like I'm talking to my people, and that's a different we. But it feels important. Someone asked me recently how I know that a love poem for Melissa will be enjoyable for other people, like a poem that I've written for her about my feelings for her would be enjoyable. And I was like, I just want to add to the bank of lesbian poems. Like somebody might need a poem for their girlfriend, like I want to help out. I'm community minded sometimes. So yeah, I think that I've just been moving towards a kind of vulnerability and an attempt at precision with my pronouns, because they matter to me. It's like, who am I calling to me? Who am I inviting into the poem? Who am I invoking?
You also manage, though, with your particular speaker, your I, who is a very vulnerable, it seems to me, Donika.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, sometimes even in the scariest moments for me, Donika Ross. You know, I'm like, what is going on in this poem? Do you know what I'm saying? I mean, well, that's part of my question here. Like you seem to me, you know, there's a poem in here where you say you're never going to return to the South. Yeah. I mean, thank God you were lying. Here you are in the South at the greatest bookstore in the whole of the South. But it's sort of, I mean, when I read that line, every book you've written before this book comes up, and this book, the poems in this book comes up. You talked about what you called suicidality in your reading. And there's something, I'm not sure how you're able to do this, but in every poem, we're sort of very aware of all the history that the speaker is carrying, even when it's a poem that's not about that particular history. And maybe you have a comment on that, or maybe that was the comment you already made when you were talking about an I that is not a persona, which I cannot. I have no gift at. I've been trying to do this, and every time the poem's horrific. So can you talk? It's so bad. But so can you talk about? But can you talk about that? Like, I mean, why the whole South? Why not just Arkansas? And why not L.A.? Like, L.A. is on the West Coast. That ain't our problem. Can you talk a little bit? We didn't do that.
I'm not going back there. Yeah.
Right.
I'm not going back there either.
You're not going. You ain't going nowhere but Iowa. Like. You'll never play dominoes again.
That's what it feels. Jericho, that's what it feels like. I'll never play. No. I do think that, so my mom got sick in 2008. And there was a kind of break in the family where it was like we'd all had our roles and we were in them. And even if the roles were uncomfortable, we just occupied them. And there was no thinking. Like, I wasn't thinking about, oh, I'm a daughter, so like, what does that mean? I was just like, I'm the oldest, so I do whatever the oldest does. And then my mom got sick. She coded. She died. She was dead for like 10 minutes. They resuscitated her. And when she came back, her memory was fractured. Her short-term memory, her long-term memory. And in a way, there was a kind of breaking that happened in the family. It's like, we had a center and then the center kind of broke. And like, my mom's fine. Like, she can do lots of things. Like, she's okay. But there was no one to ask me to return. Like, no one asked me. Like, my mom used to be like, when are you coming home? And then after that, there wasn't home anymore. And so I had to really sort of think about, and I had the opportunity to think about, what kind of home do I want to make? And where can that home be? And it's, I do continue to feel unmoored in a way, but where I've found home is with the people I love, like with my beloveds. And so there is home here, like there is home, like I have home, like when I go to New York, when I go to Chicago, when I'm in Texas, like there are places where, because my beloveds are there, and I'm in their space, North Carolina, it's like I get to be at home with them. But to truly return does not feel available. And that, I think that's true for a lot of reasons. Sometimes it's just hot. The weather, I don't know.
I like all of that, but I know a lot of people, they get bothered by that. Well, I think it's cold outside right now.
Yeah. Yeah. No, this is, I mean.
Whew, yeah. You probably think it's not cold.
Iowa, as my great aunt used to say. That was the tribe. That was like the tribe. So I was like, oh, Aunt Mildred, just knew. But Iowa feels so far away from home that it does feel like a little bit like a blank canvas. It's like, okay, so then what does my life look like? Like how, what
you
are the,
make it.
Yeah. So it's like, there aren't strange men who can just walk. I mean, whatever, but like the men who are related to me who are strange are not just going to walk into my house, and they are strange, those guys. So it's like, there's something about that life that it feels just far enough away that it feels safer.
You mentioned in your reading, and here you just now you were talking a good deal ultimately about the fact of the love poem, which in your last two books, in this book in particular, I think is holds the book together, these love poems, which are of absolute delight, um, and not and not of longing or of desperation, but of delight. You mentioned in the reading here two things that I find interesting. You said you wrote this poem, and the last line of that poem is something like, "Donika, you should be in love." But then you also said you don't believe in magic.
I know.
So
it don't make no sense. I'm not gonna pretend it makes sense. Statements next to each other.
Well, I don't think those have to make sense together, but I would love to know, just given that, what do you think a poem can do? Like, when people talk about poetry, they often talk about it in sentences that also include the word power. So what is the power of a poem? Can I write a poem and like finally have a man, or no? Like, do I just need to like write a poem where I say, Jericho, you ought to be your ass in love? Like,
like, I feel like if you put an O in front, Jericho.
Yeah, I have to say, okay.
I think the O might.
That'll do it. That's what makes it a spell.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay,
next question.
No. I do think that, like, so I've been talking about this a lot with my students, where there's a question of like, do we keep fidelity to what happened in the poem? Like, is the poem nonfiction, right? Like, is the poem a record of what happened? Or can the poem be a space where we begin to imagine a different response, a different reaction? So like, I might not be able to conjure love, but maybe my speaker can call that into being in a way. My speaker can say, you should be in love. And I'm like, oh, right, I should be in love. And that opens a door for me. And I do think about my speaker as being a little bit different from me, but there's a way that, I don't know, I feel like she could do stuff I can't do. And so, but then through the practice of writing, I begin to imagine a different kind of future as possible. And that's been so important for my students, because I think when they're writing about things that are so hard, that are like traumatic or just sad, and I'm like, do you want your speaker to do something different? Because your speaker can do something different. Your speaker could do anything. What else could happen here? Because sometimes that seems to be what the poem is calling for. The poem seems to be moving in that direction, not just as a record of what happened. And so I think I've been trying to embrace that a little bit more. So I think that's one of the things that poetry can do. It gives us a route into potential futures.
I just if you don't mind, can you? What do you? I'll ask it this way. It's an and/or. What is the quintessential love poem, and/or when you hear the phrase love poet, who do you think of? Like, if I say love poem, what's the first poem? Or if I say love poet, what's the first poet?
I think of Neruda.
Mm-hmm.
But then Neruda is just like doing so. It's like, I want to eat you whole like an almond, And I remember there's that poem. It's like one of the 100 love poems, and that introduction is like, I've built a century of like of love. I don't know. It's like whatever that language is like, right in the introduction for that. It's just like so gorgeous. But whenever I've shared that poem with students, they're like, this is too intense. And I'm like, oh, y'all haven't been in love. That's interesting. You don't know what Eros is. And maybe like that's not their journey. Like not everyone wants to eat their lover's skin whole like an almond. I don't know. I've certainly been there. So I think it's like Neruda is like so over the top. Yeah. And so I think in my mind, like he's fixed. But then like just even recently, I was reading Derek Austin's Tenderness. And there are just like so many love poems in there, but there are love poems to a like romantic beloved, but then there are also love poems to friends, and just like the expansion of the love poem that I think we're seeing right now. And maybe like that's always been true. I'm not sure, but I do feel like maybe because they're just like, I feel like queer poets are doing something with like the friend love poem. You know, it's like, this is one of my beloveds. Like this romantic relationship matters, and then, you know, and then my friendships matter. I feel like my friends like know me. They knew me when I was little. You knew me with my old last name, so you know. And that's been a minute since I was Donika Ross. So
Can you read this poem on page 53? No, not that poem. Hold on, I'm gonna find it. I think it's 51.
51.
Yeah. Can you read us this poem on page 51?
Home, a primer. There is no place I return to but the mind. Shadow of texture, of scent, pressure. Someone's hand cradling the back of my head. Breath. Eyes squeezed shut or open. A sound. No place but always longing for what is fleeting, what's fled. No place called home. Home, not a place but sensation, the memory of it. A voice and the silence that follows. Light, it's leaving. Memory, yes, and the language to conjure it. Weak magic in the dark, but enough. Enough. It's too warm for winter, though winter comes. The sun shifted south, and the song sparrows who make in the hedge a home at the bath, which I filled only this morning, drinking.
Can you talk a little bit about your conception of endings? You're so good at ending a poem. I don't know, how did you learn that, and how do you teach it?
That's a pickle. I don't. Someone
Do you feel that way?
Yeah,
Do
someone
you
told me in
feel
grad
like, oh, I
school.
can handle ending? There are things I feel like, oh, I can do that. But then other things, when I'm working on a poem, I'm like, oh, I'm at this part where I got to learn how to do a thing and go read, a Donika Kelly book before I can finish the damn poem. Do you know what I mean? But can you talk about your facility with endings, which seems to me very strong, but maybe you don't feel that. I don't know.
I mean, I do. I had a teacher once tell me that I understood the rhythm of an ending. And I think that's one of the ways that I think of it is like, what is the closing rhythm, right? So, like, is it like a door closing, a door slamming? Is it right? Like, but I'm not really thinking about that when I'm drafting. I'm just doing whatever I want to do. And then I get to a point where I'm like, oh, that's it. But sometimes I know the ending is wrong. Like, I know that the ending that I've written is insufficient. And because I think maybe just conceptually, I'm like, the rhythm of this is wrong, but also I'm less and less interested these days in endings that turn away from the feeling that has been sort of brought or carried in the poem. Like, I think I want an ending, or I'm more interested in endings that are like sustaining eye contact, like that are like, we're done, And I think like, and I'm not good at eye contact. Like, I'm on the spectrum. Like that shit's hard. It'd be like, let me look in somebody's eyes, like, is that an act of aggression? I don't know. But I mean, I think that's it. I think it's like, it's a question of like, does this rhythm feel right? And then have I stayed with the feeling until the end, or did I turn away? And sometimes you got to turn away. Like, there's nothing else to be done about it. But I try to hold the gaze. But I can't say that I've ever thought about it in words before. So thank you for that question.
Yeah. Also,
does that make sense, though?
Yeah, that makes sense to me. And I have 47 more questions, but we're out of time. And endings is a good place, I think, to end. And we can take questions from our audience here at Charis Books, or from our audience online on Crowdcast.
Yes. So our Crowdcast people, put your questions in there. They are putting their appreciations in there for you, Donika. But if y'all have questions, now is the time. For our in-person folks, we got some poets in the room. We got some friends in the room. Anybody got any questions? Jericho, your questions are always so good and expansive. It's like hard to even.
Yeah, well, if you don't hurry up and have some, I'm gonna ask.
We can have more. We can have more for you. But Anybody got anything? Well, let's take a few. Oh yeah, all right, let's go.
Hi, thank you so much. Could you tell us a little bit about the experience or experiences you have when you return to one of your poems, perhaps with this or others that you've written before in other books?
Delight. I like my own work so much.
Yes.
And I really enjoy reading it. And so when I return, I mean, I do sometimes have this feeling of like, well, I wouldn't make that choice again. Or if I was writing that poem right now, like I definitely would have turned the poem in a different way. But even then, there's like the pleasure of the record, the pleasure of the artifact of thinking. Like, oh, this is where I was 10 years ago. This is where I was 15 years ago. Like, this is how I was like navigating being a person. And so I'm curious about that because it's like, especially like poems in my first book, which I still really like very much. When I go back to those poems, I'm just like, look at her. She's trying to figure it out. She's trying to figure out how to have boundaries and how to be kind and respect other people's boundaries. And I'm like, I did it. So it's like there were like the seeds of a shift, right? The seeds of how do I want to live my life? Can I like feed that? Can I nurture that so that but it's like I don't necessarily know what those are until like they're in the poem or they're in a poem. So I love going back. I love reading my own work. Sometimes I'm just like, ooh. And I really like having the opportunity to say out loud in front of people, Tennessee tidy all booty nobody. Because really, when my cousin Jimmy said that, we all were just like, yes, that is how we count 10 points now. It's just for 10 points. I think that's a lot. That's a lot of words.
It's much better than saying 10.
It is. That's true. That's true. I mean, there were other things that we said, but then we stopped saying them. We were just like, Tennessee tidy, I'll booty nobody. And it's just like that every time. It's like that rhythm. So it's just like, it's fun to like have an opportunity to say that because, you know, my cousin Jimmy is chaotic. That was a gift.
Do you feel that just on the answer you gave, do you feel that poetry is your spiritual practice? You always seemed pretty zenned out, but I don't know you to be a Buddhist. So it stresses me. I'm always like, how do I be more like Donika? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, what's that all about? Is that poetry?
I think it's the practice. Like, I think once poetry shifted into a practice of like, that was a part of my life as opposed to like a product, like poems as a product. Like, I think that was fine. But I think poetry as a practice just gave me the opportunity to like not be good at something. Like I don't have to be good. I don't have to show it to anybody. But also, and this has like been happening recently, it's a way of getting to connect with my friends. Like, let's write together. Oh yeah, what are you doing this weekend? Can we just get on the phone and like do a little bit of writing together? And then that's like we get to catch up and but then we're also doing our little practice. And it just feels good. It's like one of the things that feels really good. There's a poet, and I'm blanking on her name. But she said, I was on a panel with her, and she said, poetry is my most secure attachment. And I think it's that. It's like it's always there. Mm-hmm. And I do feel like almost anytime I sit down to write something, it'll look like a poem. It'll sound like a poem. It might not always do poem things. You know, it might not open the door into, you know, a different way of understanding life, but just like something about like, let me just put down some words and see how this feels. It's like, it's just so good.
Yeah. Hi. When Jericho was asking the question about your endings and how good they are, he also mentioned that there are things that he can struggle with writing a poem, that he'll get to that place and be like, oh, I gotta like do some study to like finish this poem. I was wondering if there are any things that you find yourself struggling with.
I do. I mean, I think like a lot of people, closed form, and I really have to have somebody hold my hand a lot of times to like stay in it or like give me a template that feels pretty gentle. But I get tangled up in my syntax, and I get sometimes tangled up in like who is speaking to whom. Like that can get really tangly. And the thing that helps the most with that is like, I'm like, oh yeah, I just don't know enough, or I'm too close. I need to like just put that in the folder. We'll circle back around next year. and see if it makes more sense, you know. And I think you're right, like in the interim, it's just like reading other people, reading other poets, so that when I return to the work, I have a slightly changed sensibility, like I know more. But I don't think I could just like name sort of specific things. I know that there are things that I would like to do differently in the poems that I'm writing right now. I'm trying to like move away from my items in a series. Love items in a series. I love a little pile of things. I'm like, well, what do you do if you don't have a pile? Like, so I guess maybe I'm reading to see what people do if they're not making little stacks of things. But yeah, thank you for that question.
We have an online question. Iva says, can you talk a little more about your process for organizing a poetry collection? How do you identify your sections and which poems fit into them?
But I did talk about like sort of the section, the movements in the book. With this book was a surprise. I thought to myself, and sometime in 22, I was like, I think I have enough poems for a book. And I was like, let me go look. And then I did. And then I put an artificial constraint, which was 60 pages, because I like lean books. Just how they say it. I like a lean book. And then I just started sorting what I had. And it really was like yes, I think this could go in the book. This, or no, like, yes, this is strong enough, but it feels like something different. No. There were plenty of things in the no pile. And then I had like about 4 movements. Like I had sort of 4 distinct piles. And I thought, well, how do these go together? What brings them together? And it was a lot of moving around. I spent most of 2023 just like shuffling the order. And the book started in a different place. And Melissa read it and she was like, I think it needs to start with the Arkansas poems. And I was like, no. And then my friend Elizabeth was like, Melissa knows how to sell books, so maybe you should listen to her. And I was like, she can't tell me what to do. And then I was like, well, let me think about it. And so I tried it a few times with the poems that bring in my family's language as the first section. And it took a while to figure out, like, how do I get out of that section into those other movements? And once I figured that out, I think I like the collection structurally made a lot more sense. But it really was just like moving things around. Like these were poems written across about 8 years. And just, I work at the level of the poem. I'm almost never thinking about a book, because why would anybody think about a book when you could just think about one poem? Like,
amen.
That's like, it's just,
Bless his holy name. Amen. Don't stop talking. Keep going. That's good stuff. That's the word of God right there. Tell the children.
Oh my gosh. Thank you for that. No, but I think like working at the level of the poem then allows me to do whatever I want to do. I don't have to like hold to any conceit. I don't feel constrained by subject. So then it was interesting to see how the subjects of the poem, or the subjects, of the poems across these movements kind of cohered in a way. They were speaking to each other, and it makes sense. It was me. So, and I am sometimes coherent. I sometimes cohere. So that was like my approach, is just like, I just looked at what I had and said, can I make a shape here?
And are you a kinetic mover of things? Like, do you print them out and move them all over the floor, or are you all in the computer?
I print everything out one-sided. My students are bad about this. They'll bring in some double-sided nonsense. I'm like, what am I supposed to do with that? How are we gonna move anything around? There's something on the back of this page. It's so weird. And I think it's because they are not used to like material, right? So like for them, they're like, I printed it and everything's digital. I print everything out. I carried around sort of the sheaf of the manuscript like with me to multiple places. It looks real raggedy right now, that manuscript, but it was fun. Like even when I was being edited, so I would look at my editor's notes and then I would make notes on my draft. from the draft that he sent me with his notes. And I was like, how do I want to change this? And then I would make the changes on the paper before I went into the document to see how it worked. And I really love that part, the material, being able to just sort of see like, oh yeah, this poem has this image and this poem has like a similar image. I can do those work next to each other, you know, and then finding out, oh, like there's a sapling in.
Because you read a different sapling.
Yeah.
That sapling I like. I mean,
I know.
like that sapling.
No, I know which sapling. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, the sapling self-portrait as a woman who kneels over her beloved's face.
Yes. Sapling in the wind.
I like that sapling.
Me too.
That's a good sapling.
It is.
A lot of sap.
Yep, that's right. It's good in practice. It's good on the page.
Hey, Shay Bay, get him up. The Lord.
Said, calm down, jerk.
That was Jesus.
Yeah.
All right, hold on, Sam. Let me bring the mic.
I hope this is not too personal, but back to the love poems. So what's the relationship between seduction and writing a love poem?
So I don't know.
Oh,
that is not my gift. Even when sometimes when it's happening, there were like multiple times very much at the beginning with Melissa where I was like actually running away. Like I like worked myself into a corner and she was like, are you running away from me? And I was like, yes. I need you to turn your eye, look away. I actually can't handle it. And I think that must be cute or something. It must, because she and I are still together. And sometimes I will still run away. Like she'll like turn her, and I'm like, no, ma'am. I need you to let's calm down. But also I really like it. But it's like, so her book, the Dry Season, is about having that kind of magnetism, right? Like, and having to learn how to use her powers for good is a part of it. And for the good in her life, I think, you know, like not to just like use it because she has it. And for me, what I bring is a kind of earnestness, a corniness, and a strong yes, I would like to do that. I'm very clear. I'm a clear communicator. And so I think in some ways, like that's the energy in the poems is like trying to communicate, like part of what I'm doing is trying to communicate the feeling of being with her in those poems, and then in poems that are not erotic in that way, but like being with my friends. Like there's a poem about like being in a park with my friend Vung, and I love her. She's always making me go up hills. You know, it's like even in the poem, like we're going up a hill and then we come down a hill. It's just like hill because she lives in Seattle. So she's like, you should be going up a hill. And I'm in my body. And when I think about her, I think about like how my body feels going up. But even when we're going down, I'm like, we're going to have to go up again. And she's like, yep. And every so often she's like, we can take the bus. And I'm like, yes. Yeah.
When you spoke about, you know, when Melissa said, you know, these are about you, but also that, you know, I really relate to that blank page as a safe space to express that directness. And so I was wondering how you felt about that as also a form of seduction, but seduction that you can handle. Right?
I feel like the most seductive poem from her perspective is I love you, I miss you, please get out of my house. Because she's secure, like it reassures her that it's okay to leave, which then means it's a choice to come back, right? Like there's like so much choice in it, that like I want that time alone too. Like she wants it, I want it, and it's like that clear communication like aspect sort of feels exciting, you know. And I think there's some like Ann Carson writes about, like, you know, when she writes about Eros, it's it's that there's like a tension, right? But like if we're always like this, the line is slack, right? So then if we're apart, then like we get to put some more tension back in the line so that when we come back together, it's exciting. And to make a space where it's like, no, but for real, go away. Or for real, I gotta go away, is a way of like reinvigorating that tension. I don't know if that makes any sense at all, but that felt like a good thing to say. So
Before we go, can you say at least one sentence about Audre Lorde and at least one sentence about opera?
when I'm going to say more than one sentence about Audre Lorde.
Well, yeah, that's why I said at least.
Yeah. So when I first read Uses of the Erotic is Power, I was teaching it, which meant I was reading it with a class. And then one of my students was like, this sounds great. How do we do it? And I was like, I don't know. I was like, this feels aspirational. And what that student was asking about was like, and Audre Lorde articulates in that essay that once we feel a kind of excellence in ourselves, like a kind of connection with, like that connection to the chaos of ourselves, that deep emotional center, we want that in so many other parts of our lives. And that's a thing that we can aspire to building into other parts of our lives. So she's like painting a bookshelf, sitting in the sun, making love, like all of those are on the same spectrum of like that, of feeling, or they can be. And it had never occurred to me to ask that question, how do you do it, until my student asked me. And then I think like that's been something that I've just been trying to move toward. Like I think that essay in particular has really opened up my life in some very material ways. So that being with students, just being out in the sun, just, you know, feeling my feelings is a part of like a kind of ecstasy, you know? And so like her thinking around that has been like really, really important for me, like a call to be in myself and with, like really with other people, to like not use them, but to be with them. That it really has just changed the entire landscape of my life. And as for the opera, there's an opera poem in here. The first opera I saw live was Lucia de Lammermoor at the Met with my favorite soprano, Deanna Damrau. And that lady was rolling on the floor. During the mad scene. The mad scene's so good. She's rolling on the floor. People, the chorus is picking her up. They're singing, she's singing, and I was enraged. I was like, this is so good. I was having a lot of feelings. And when I left, I was like, why does she get to make art like that? Like, I want to make art. And I just started my PhD program at Vanderbilt. I was like, why am I in a PhD program? I should be making art. And I was like, she did not just show up at the Met. She wasn't just like, knock, knock, I'm ready to go, right? Like, there was something about that opera in particular, and seeing it live, seeing her live, seeing that production and that level of production, that just like, it was just like another key moment that just like opened up, like, that's the level at which I would like to be making art, you know? I mean, I ain't got the Met behind me, and that's all right. That's all right. Melissa, in, I want to say 2019, we saw La Traviata with Deanna Damrau, and there was this, she was in an opera podcast. We'd listened to an opera podcast ahead of time where she was talking about the role, and her final aria, she says, you know, if the soprano has the note, right? There's like a note that isn't written, but like conventionally, like sopranos will sing the note if they have it. And I love if the soprano has the note, you know. And sometimes I think about that, like when I'm writing the poem, I'm like, does this poem have the note, you know? Like, it does feel like an interesting kind of bar. I don't know.
It's also shady.
It really is, because not every soprano has
like she's trying to tell you I am that soprano.
And she is. And she
have the note.
Yeah.
And all of y'all ain't gonna have the note, but I got
that's
the
true.
note. Yeah. This is such a pleasure. Are there other questions?
I think we're good. I think y'all have just
It's a
done it.
privilege, Dr. Kelly. This is a beautiful, beautiful book. Thank you so much. God bless you. Isn't this beautiful?
Thank you, Jericho.
Don't y'all love it? Go read this book.
Thank
Thank you so much. Beautiful conversation.
Thank y'all both so much. I feel like we just got a whole MFA in one night. This was beautiful. I want to let our folks watching at home know that y'all can click this teal button to buy The Natural Order of Things from Charis. Really does help us when you buy your event books from us. You can also buy Backlist. You can buy The Tradition and Jericho's other books from us as well. We really appreciate y'all. We hope you stay safe and well, and we will see you next time. And for all of our folks here, you get first dibs on signed books. We really appreciate you being with us in person, and we hope that you will come to meet me there online tomorrow night and all of our great events coming up this week. Thank y'all.